guys, it's Becky with Design Bundles, and today I am here to share with you another great Silhouette Studio tutorial. We are going to be talking about combining your text with shapes. Also, I like to refer to that as inline text, and I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but I promise once we get started, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and dive on in and get started.
Okay guys, so here we are in Silhouette Studio, and I have brought in three common clip art. Well, I say clip art, these are SVGs, but three common images that people like to use for integrating with text. Now what that means is that not only are we going to type out some text and use with these images, but we're going to make it look like the text is part of the image, to be in line with the image that we're working with. So let's go ahead and start with our text box. We will use the same word for each of these. So let's see, we will go ahead and fill this in with black. And I always like to turn the line transparent. And let's pick us a pretty script font. No, I want one thicker than that. Let's see. I have a few to choose from here. Okay, so this one here is cute. The font name for this one is Hello Wedding. Okay, so what I like about it is that it's thick enough without being a super thick font. And the first thing that we're going to work with is this one up here. Now, a few things that you need to either make note of or already be familiar with. We are going to be using the knife tool. We are going to be using the weld function. And we are also going to be using the offset function. So let's go ahead and get started. On this one in particular, I'm going to use the knife tool, and it doesn't matter, how many of these heartbeat lines you include. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that we're only going to use the ones on the end. Now, after I cut that, I can just position my font. Now, if I want, I can line these up so that it matches. Okay, so once you have the text, and here, I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this actually. Once you have the text and the images lined up, then you're just going to right click and weld. Now also notice that I did have them overlap a little bit, okay? So now this is one continuous inline image. So that was pretty easy, right? And the next one, this arrow, it is also fairly easy. The only thing that I want to caution with something like an arrow is you want to go ahead and line it up ahead of time before you cut into your design, because you don't want to cut it down the middle and just line it up on the ends. So one thing I'm paying attention to is the end of my E over here, and I'm pretty happy with that. So we will actually use the duplicate feature. I'll duplicate down below to give me an extra copy of that, but there's a better reason for it. Let's change this to red. And what I want to do is I want to use my knife. Not yet, there we go. I want to use my knife and I want to cut just like my letter would be going up, okay? And the same over here, I'm actually going to cut just a little bit into both of those. Now let me show you why. Because if I go ahead and delete those out, there we go. Now, remember we use the control down. So now I can just use control up and it lines those back up where they're supposed to be. Highlight everything and then I can just choose weld. Now, that was number 2. And let's talk about, this is probably the most complicated of the 3 designs we're going to do. Let me change this color. And we will enlarge it a little bit. And what I want to do is I want love to follow along the side here. Okay, then I can enlarge the text a little bit. And again, I'm just watching the end of my E right here. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now, I don't want to cut into it or anything just yet. What I want to do is create an offset. And the reason I'm doing this after I size my text is because I want my offset to be similar to the size of my pin line here. All right, so let's do our offset. And it looks like for this one, we'll be looking at 0.11. Okay, I'm gonna hit apply. I'll select these two, right click, and I'm gonna choose make a compound path. Now, the reason we had to do that was because these were already set up to be lines. Okay, these both had lines. This was a solid shape that did not have lines, so we had to create that line. All right, so I hope that makes a little bit of sense. And then I am actually going to, once again, create that duplicate. I'm using Control Right this time. Oops. And we will cut right here. And also cut right here. And the reason I do it that way is I don't have to wonder if my design is going to overlap or not. I know it's going to because I cut it to overlap that way. So now I can Control Left. And I really like that shortcut for how that works out. And then I can select those two, right click, and weld. So those are 3 really cool files where you can use text. Now, this also works really well for state shapes. Okay, so if you take the outline of your state, a lot of people like to use that and they use the word home. And it's also really cool for like school mascots and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of reasons why you would want to be able to use text and incorporate text into your design. And, you know, I just really encourage you to explore these types of options that are available to you in Silhouette Studio, because it is it's a very robust software for what you get to use it for. And of course, you don't even have to use it with Silhouette. So, you know, definitely lots of options for you.
So, what did you think about our inline text? I think it's just a really fun and simple way to add personalization. You know, I use the word love, some people use the word home. You can also personalize a lot of really awesome projects with names or dates or anything like that. So don't feel held back by using simple words. You can really let your creativity flow. So, all right guys, well, I really appreciate you watching today. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we always have a lot of great tutorials for you right around the corner. So thanks again. We'll see you next time.